So everybody knows what happened to Minato the night Naruto was born. He had to fight against quote-unquote Madara Uchiha. Unbeknownst to Minato, that was Obito, his former student, and he had to seal the 9 tails inside of Naruto because Obito pushed it out of Kushina while she was giving birth to Naruto because the seal was weakened. It's just one of those massively important moments that essentially dictate what's going to happen in the Naruto series from then on. The 9 tails attack in the Leaf Village is a legendary event that everyone who went through it's going to remember up until they die. Minato had a difficult task on that day. He had to save the village, but not just from the 9 tails itself, he had to deal with quote-unquote Madara Uchiha, which he did, landing a Rasengan with his version 2 flying Raijin and then undoing Madara's control over the 9-tailed fox. Then Obito had to run away because he lost the advantage in the fight, and Minato even marred him with a flying Raijin. So that was good for Minato. He won the fight. However, he still had a massive 9-tailed fox to deal with because the village was struggling a lot. I mean, they had Hiruzen fighting against the 9-tails and several other Leaf Ninjas, but it was wreaking havoc. And we also know that several villagers and shinobi died facing the 9-tails, such as Iruka's parents. And then obviously Minato would have to deal with it. The problem is, dealing with a tail beast is not as simple as dealing with a person, no matter how powerful the person is, because things just don't really apply to a tail beast like they would apply to a regular shinobi. After all, from the Leaf Village's perspective, the 9-tailed fox is not really a sentient creature, but a formidable weapon of mass destruction that's pretty important for the Leaf Village in terms of geopolitical power. The 9-tails is the strongest tail beast by a long margin, and having it in the village first makes other villages afraid of you because you have the most powerful tail beast, and also it means that other villages do not have it to use it against you. Even though the Leaf Village didn't use the 9 tails as much as other villages used their Jinchurikis and tail beasts in the wars before, at least having the 9 tails means that nobody can use it against you. So Minato really had a conundrum there. He had to contain the 9 tails so that it wouldn't destroy the village and kill more people, but he also had to keep it inside of the village. And so he chose to seal half of the 9 tails inside of Naruto and half inside of himself using the Reaper Death Seal, which killed him in the process because this is just a byproduct of the jutsu. But this was only one of the options Minato had that night. Kushina offered to go and kill the 9 tails for Minato while he brought her to it, but Minato declined that offer, saying that she should reserve the rest of her chakra so that she could meet Naruto when he grows up, because after all, she was a Jinchuriki who got the tail beast extracted. She was going to die regardless of what they did. Another reason why Minato declined that offer from Kushina was because he didn't want to upset the Jinchuriki / tail beast balance in the world, saying that, oh, if the 9 tails dies here, there's not going to be a Jinchuriki of the 9 tails until it coalesces back into reality. And yeah, this could cause many different problems, because if the 9 tails didn't go to the Leaf Village, for example, after he went back and reappeared somewhere else in the world, then another village or even maybe a malicious organization like the Akatsuki could get their hands on the 9 tails, just like the Akatsuki got the 3 tails, which was in a river without a Jinchuriki after Yagura, the 4th Mizukage, died with it. Now, the obvious advantage in this situation is that the 9 tails will be taken care of, and Minato, the 4th Hokage and the strongest ninja who had ever been born in the Leaf Village, would survive the night, because he wouldn't have to use the Reaper Death Seal to seal the 9 tails. He even says that he had to use the Reaper Death Seal and split the 9 tails into 2 parts because he didn't have a more powerful sealing jutsu, and he said it was strategically sound to split the 9 tails into 2 parts, but it doesn't seem very sound to me because you're essentially cutting the power of the tail beast in half, of your weapon of massive destruction in half. And yeah, I guess you could argue it's easier to control just the young part of the 9 tails, which is what Minato gives to Naruto. That's a little flimsy argument for Minato. I guess he was not thinking very straight that day. And this is the point of the video, actually. He didn't make the right choice. Now, he says he didn't have a more powerful sealing jutsu to seal the entire 9 tails because he wasn't a Jinchuriki, implying that Jinchurikis have more powerful sealing jutsus, or maybe he's just referring to Kushina. Now, the thing is, Minato sealed the 9 tails into Naruto and himself because for him, Kushina was already dead. She had the 9 tails extracted out of her. It's kind of a rule that the Jinchuriki is going to die if the tail beast extracted. But we see in the work that there is an exception for that. If you're able to put a tail beast back inside of the Jinchuriki after the Jinchuriki got it extracted from him, the Jinchuriki can survive. This is exactly what Minato does to Naruto after Madara extracts the 9 tails. Minato gives the other half of the 9 tails to Naruto as an Edo Tensei, and because he's an Edo Tensei, he's not gonna die. He's already dead, so taking the tail beast out of himself and giving it to somebody else is not gonna kill him. And yes, technically he He gave the tail beast to Black Zetsu, who stole it from Minato, but then Obito got it from Black Zetsu by controlling him, and then he gave it to Naruto. The point is that you can save a Jinchuriki who got the tail beast extracted if the Jinchuriki doesn't die immediately, which is actually Kushina's case, just like it was Naruto's case in the arc, because they have a massive amount of vital energy, essentially, for being Uzumakis. We see that most of the Jinchurikis that get their tail beast extracted from the Akatsuki, they just die immediately, like Gaara, for example, but Naruto, Kushina, and the Uzumakis, they're built different, they're not gonna die just like that. So you have some time. I mean, Kushina was kinda lucid in the final moments there after the Nio Tails was extracted from her. So, assuming that Minato didn't have a more powerful sealing jutsu, or a jutsu that could seal the entire tail beast on one person, he could have sealed half of the 9 tails back into Kushina, saving her life, and then seal the other half on himself. Now, in this situation, he would still die because the Reaper Death Seal was used. However, Kushina was not going to die. She would be the Jinchuriki, Naruto wouldn't, and he would at least grow up with a mom. And in this scenario, the Leaf Village keeps the 9 tails. Now, there is another scenario here that I never really explored, and I think it's highly unlikely, otherwise Kushina would have said something about it, which is Kushina sealing the 9 tails back into herself. She's an Uzumaki. It's pretty much heavily implied she has powerful Uzumaki sealing jutsus because she uses her adamantine chains 2 times at least to seal the 9 tails' movements. I mean, 3 times if you take the Minato one shot. But you also have to wonder, how was the 9 tails sealed in Kushina? Who did that? Was it Mito Uzumaki who transferred it to Kushina when she was about to pass? We know it's not the Reaper Death Seal because the sealing is much weaker, as we see in the Minato one shot, where the 9 tails was able to kind of talk to Kushina without any repercussion. And because it was so much weaker for Obito / Madara to break the seal just because Kushina was pregnant. Also, it seems really counterintuitive to have to die every time you have to pass the tail beast to somebody else by using the Reaper Death Seal. We see in the Cloud Village, for example, that they use the Ember Jar to pass the 8 tails to the next Jinchuriki, which doesn't require somebody to sacrifice their own life. And if there's someone that's probably capable of sealing a tail beast in the Leaf Village, that person is gonna be the full-blooded Uzumaki, isn't it? So there is this remote possibility that Kushina could have just sealed the 9 tails into herself, saving her own life from getting the tail beast extracted because she's getting it back, saving Minato's life, and, well, Naruto's gonna grow up with 2 parents this time, which is probably the best case scenario. Now, you could argue Kushina was really tired and out of chakra because, well, she kinda went through childbirth, and also she was using her adamantine chains, and if that was a possibility, she would have probably said something to Minato. However, there's also the chance that both Kushina and Minato just didn't know that putting the tail beast back inside of Kushina would save her life. After all, it was the 9 tails who gave that idea to Gaara in the arc to take Naruto back to Minato so that Minato could put the other half of the 9 tails back into Naruto so that Naruto wouldn't die. But Minato didn't really debate that very much. He was like, oh yeah, let me do that and I'll save Naruto's life. It was as though he kinda knew. Then again, he could have just been desperate to save Naruto, and even something that sounded like a really long shot was worth a try. But it's something that you probably think about when the 9 tails is attacking the village and your wife just got the 9 tails extracted out of her. Now, when Kushina mentioned that, oh, I'm gonna kill the 9 tails and then Minato stops her, maybe she's referring to Kushina herself sealing the 9 tails back inside of her, and then Kushina would just die from getting the tail beast extracted, but she probably just didn't know that getting the tail beast back inside of you would save her life. And if that's the case, then it's just really tragic that it happened, because if Kushina had used the jutsu to seal the 9 tails back inside of her, well, she would just be the Jinchuriki again, she would live, Minato would live, and Naruto wouldn't be an orphan. This really is the best case scenario. Now, one of the reasons why Minato chose to seal the 9 tails' half in Naruto is because he trusted his own son would be able to eventually master the chakra of the 9 tails, which does happen. And when that happens, that does give the Leaf Village a big advantage in the arc. However, it takes 16 years for Naruto to master KCM 1 and a couple more days to master KCM 2, so it was definitely a long-term investment. Now, you can say the 9 tails was useful to Naruto before he mastered KCM 1, but it was also a pretty big risk. 9 tails' chakra was extremely useful, for example, during the Konoha Crush arc, when Naruto used it to fight against Shukaku. I mean, it wasn't the full 9 tails or anything, but he used the chakra of the 9 tails to summon Gamabunta, which was what allowed Naruto to win the fight against Gaara. It would have been bad if Shukaku returned to the Leaf Village and started to wreak havoc there, you know? 9 tails was also useful in the fight against pain, but it was also pretty damn dangerous. It almost went complete Nine Tails, and then Naruto would have died. So if Kushina had sealed the Nine Tails back inside of her, she probably just would have mastered the chakra of the Nine Tails in that period of time, and then the Akatsuki would eventually hunt her down instead of Naruto. And if the Nine Tails dies, this is a big problem geopolitically speaking, because, well, the other villages can see a weakness in the Leaf Village and try to attack, try to gain an advantage, and then when the Tail Beast comes back to life, somebody else can try and get it. However, if either Kushina or Minato kill the Nine Tails in that moment, it means Minato wouldn't die. And yeah, it takes 16 years for Naruto to master the chakra of the Nine Tails. However, in the meantime, if the Nine Tails had died, or if it was sealed back into Kushina, Minato would still be alive, and the problems Naruto solved using the chakra of the Nine Tails, well, Minato could solve them much, much easier. Do you really think Orochimaru's invasion of the Leaf Village would have been very successful with Minato there? Or the Akatsuki gaining power for that matter? Minato literally put a flying Raijin mark on Obito. He could just chase him down and kill him or capture him. Minato became known during the Third Great Ninja War as the Yellow Flash, a guy with a flee-on-sight order from the superiors of the enemy villages, just because he was unbeatable. Minato was a much more important asset for the Leaf Village than the Nine Tails, even though it may not seem like it, because the Tail Beast has this power, almost a mystique surrounding it. Oh, it's a legendary beast of chakra that we can use to explode things, but Minato is far more important and more powerful. We see that in the Minato one-shot when he fought against the Nine Tails instead of Kushina's Psyche, he stalemated it, and he was a teenager there. And then you may say Minato wouldn't have survived because, well, Nine Tails impale him and Kushina because they saved Naruto from the Nine Tails' slash. That only happens after Minato has already decided to seal the Nine Tails inside of Naruto using the Reaper Death Seal, splitting its chakra, and what prompted the Nine Tails to attack baby Naruto so that Kushina and Minato had to sacrifice themselves to save him was the fact that Minato was gonna seal the Nine Tails inside of Naruto. So the Nine Tails saw that and says, oh, I don't want to be sealed inside of a baby, that's humiliating, let me go and kill the baby. But Minato had the option not to bring Kushina and Naruto to that ceremonial site, almost, which he used to seal the Nine Tails inside of Naruto. If he just brought Kushina, then Kushina could have sealed the Nine Tails instead of herself, or he could have just killed the Nine Tails himself. He seems pretty confident that he would be able to do it. And then sure, if the Nine Tails dies outside of Kushina, then she dies as well, and Naruto's gonna grow up just with a dad, but that's much better than being a complete orphan, and, I mean, he would be the son of the Hokage, so there's that, and also not a Jinchuriki that's gonna be ostracized by the population of the Leaf Village, and because he would be the son of the Hokage, he wouldn't have the Nine Tails disrupting his chakra to interrupt his training and make it more difficult for him to master jutsus. Naruto would probably be much stronger from the get-go. Obviously, Minato and the Leaf Village would have to send ninjas scouting around the world to try and detect when the Nine Tails return so that they can try and get it back, but just having Minato alive would have solved pretty much every single problem that arises before the series starts and after the Nine Tails attacks. For example, if Minato was alive, the Uchiha clan would probably not have been massacred, because what started that spiral that eventually ended up in the Uchiha clan trying a coup was the Nine Tails attack, because people pinned it on the Uchiha clan because they weren't in the village when the Nine Tails attacked, so they thought the Sharingan was controlling the Tail Beast, which was true, but it wasn't the actual Uchiha clan, it was Obito, a rogue Uchiha. But Minato saw Obito that day, or Madara, however you want to call it, and he knew he was behind it and not the Uchiha clan itself, just a rogue Uchiha. So yeah, the Uchiha clan would be cleared. I mean, obviously there are more problems about the Uchiha clan that were started by Tobirama Senju, the worst Hokage of all time, but without the Nine Tails incident being pinned on the Uchiha clan, then Minato could have sorted things out before Itachi had to massacre them, and that means Itachi would remain a servant of the Leaf Village in the Leaf Village, not as a spy in the Akatsuki, meaning that he can be much more effective in missions and stuff like that, and also the other Uchihas would still be alive, which just increases the firepower of the Leaf Village tenfold, I would say. They're the most powerful clan after all, and there will be also room for Minato to improve as a shinobi. He was only 24 years old when he died during the Nine Tails attack. He was younger than I am right now, which is pretty crazy to think about. He could have developed significantly as a shinobi, becoming even more powerful than he already was. And also his son would have a much better childhood and overall life. Now, yes, Minato knew that Naruto's life would be very difficult, and so did Kushina, but he sealed the Nine Tails inside of Naruto, believing he would eventually master the power of the Nine Tails, and also he actually thought the Leaf Leaf Village will respect Naruto a bit more because he used to be the son of the Hokage. Obviously, things didn't unfold like that. It wasn't revealed to the overall public and even Naruto himself that he was the son of the 4th Hokage up until much later. And the Leaf Village pretty much despised Naruto for being the incarnation of the Nine Tails or whatever. Hiruzen did try his best to make sure people wouldn't despise Naruto too much or be aggressive against him, but obviously he didn't have the best childhood. Although, if you compare Jinchuriki by Jinchuriki, Naruto probably had the best childhood as a Jinchuriki that we've seen in the story. Gaara's childhood was an absolute nightmare. His dad tried to kill him several times. Killer Bee's childhood was actually really damn tough. So yeah, there's nothing really you can do about it. If you're Jinchuriki, you're not gonna have a very good life. But Naruto got the easier one, I would say. However, as I said before, Minato is much more powerful than the Nine Tails and the possible buff Naruto would get from the Nine Tails. And if Naruto didn't have the Nine Tails, he would have been powerful in other ways. And the actual more significant buff Naruto got was not even the Nine Tails, but the Sage of Six Paths chakra that allowed him to use Sage of Six Paths Sage mode in the end of the war arc, which was very much more impactful than the Nine Tails' chakra. And I guess you can argue that Naruto would eventually get that anyway if things unfolded in a similar fashion. But with an alive Minato that's much more powerful than the version who died because he was young and he could have developed more, there's a high chance the 4th Great Ninja War doesn't even happen. And if the Nine Tails was sealed inside of Kushina, if she managed to seal the Nine Tails, saving herself and Minato during that day, they would still have a more powerful Minato still alive, the Nine Tails inside of the village, and Naruto growing up with a happy life? Which, yeah, it wouldn't work for the story, but it would have been more effective, both from a militaristic standpoint, considering the Leaf Village's power here, and also a humanitarian standpoint, by not sealing the Nine Tails into a newborn child, which is definitely not the procedure of getting the next Jinchuriki. Usually it's a kid, or a teenager, or even an adult, not a 5-minute-old baby. All in all, Minato made the wrong decision sealing the Nine Tails instead of Naruto and the other half and himself. That probably happened because of his lack of intel on knowing that sealing the Nine Tails back into the previous Jinchuriki could save Kushina's life. Boy, I admit that the way Kishimoto wrote that scene made it a little bit flimsy in terms of Minato's decisions there. Yes, he had to justify the series as it was, so Minato's flashback couldn't change many things. Like, obviously Naruto had to be parentless. He had to be the Jinchuriki from the day he was born. After all, we hear about this information in chapter 1. It's just the way Kishimoto went about writing Minato's decision-making and his thought process that didn't make that much sense. After all, you can also argue that the guy Minato just fought, quote-unquote Madara Uchiha, he didn't kill him, and if Minato dies, there's nothing really stopping Obito from returning to the Leaf Village in a later point and capturing baby Naruto or infant Naruto. Now, I've made a video before as to why Obito didn't attack Naruto when he was like 5 or 6 or 7. There are justifications, but Minato wouldn't know about those things, and he would die. The guy who could most certainly protect Naruto in this fragile state would no longer be there. I mean, Minato is the only guy that can actually counter Kamui using the flying Raijin. Kakashi wouldn't learn Kamui until he was 30 years old, so that's out of the picture, and nobody else really can counter Kamui. So unfortunately, this part of the story is not that tightly written. The decision behind Minato sealing the Nine Tails instead of Naruto is not greatly justified, and it seems a little dumb if you think about it. Well, if Kushina could seal the Nine Tails back instead of herself, why didn't she do it? And Minato could have survived, and also her, and yeah. Now, you can argue that, oh, they made a mistake. They didn't know what to do. Sure, I guess you could say that. And also, you can argue it's even more tragic knowing that they could have both survived and made Naruto's life much better from the get-go. But that's definitely not the vibe Kishimoto wanted to give to that scene and to Minato and Kushina's sacrifice. He wanted to make it feel heroic, epic, and also sad because of what happens to Naruto eventually. But not that they made a mistake or that they were incompetent. That's definitely not what Kishimoto wanted to do, but if you really analyze that scene, it gives off that vibe, unfortunately. Please leave a like if you enjoyed the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and ring the notification bell so you never miss any future videos. These things really help me out in the war against the algorithm, so please do them. Let's beat the algorithm together. Also, watch this other Naruto video showing up on your screen right now, and thank you so much for watching.